Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Caleaeuropeana, it's at UNICEF today. It's a very important day for the United Nations, but especially for the children, because many of the 17 goals that the world leaders adopted today, every one of the 193 entities represented in United Nations, should be an important news for every children in the world. So we are very happy to talk to Shelly and to understand better which is the importance of this event today. So, what can you tell us about this the beginning?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we're very glad to welcome you here to the We the People's Hub, which we're powered by UNICEF, United Nations Millennium Campaign, and United Nations Development Programme. And as you can probably see all around you, you're connected. Everywhere you look, you can see the global goals, how the narrative is being told, how the story is being told, what the information is telling you about poverty, about education, about health, about equal rights. And for us, for UNICEF, it's really important that we put young people at the heart of that conversation. Why young people? Young people because they matter for future generations. They matter for these goals to be successful. I mean, in order for us to talk about the goals, we need to target the audience and the population that these goals will matter for. And I wanted to just kind of share with you two of my favorite goals. This is quality of education. And without quality of education, without being able to give everybody the right to have an education, the right for every girl and boy to go to school, the right for children to stay at school until they're 16 in any part of the world. I mean, that's about capturing the rights of children and their right to have a livelihood, an education, good employment, to look after their families. And this is something that will empower them, both girls and boys, in the future in different parts of the world. So, I mean, you can see at the moment there's Malala behind you, and Malala's been speaking today, and from 193 member states, different youth ambassadors from all over the world. I mean, this is a, you know, the stakes are very high. And the other goal I wanted to share with you is gender equality. Why gender equality? Because currently, less than 50%, that's girls who don't often have the right to education, who don't often have the access to the right jobs, or because of child marriages or situations in their communities. And it's important that we give them the voice, that we basically empower them with the information that they need, and the right to demand to have an education, the right to demand that they have the same rights as boys and as all individuals in the first and the second and the third world.
I'm very glad that you reminded us about the excellent speech that Malala had in United Nations headquarters, and indeed everybody was getting emotion to listening to her, and everybody knows her story and what she was fighting for, and she's still fighting for. Uh, you're talking about the connection between education and health and welfare and, if you'd like, eradicating poverty. But Malala talked about peace and education because, of course, sometimes you might have more money in the pocket or less money in the pocket. You could eat better food or maybe less better food, but the peace, it's a big problem in the nowadays. And I wanted to ask you, how realistic do you think that to think that until 2030 we will have a peaceful and prosperous world, and of course thinking about especially about our children who at that time will be adults already, many of them.
It's a very good question. I think children need to be part of that discussion. That's why it's important during discussions like at the General Assembly that children are brought into discussions at very high levels when world leaders are coming together from all across the world, different heads of state, global leaders, and that their voices are heard. I mean, the promises that we're giving children today, whether it's in education, in health, poverty, rights, whether it's the Pope speaking, or whether it's Malala speaking, or whether it's our Secretary General speaking, or Tony Lake, our Executive Director. I mean, everybody wants to deliver that same promise to children. And you're right, the children of today are the parents of tomorrow, and then the grandparents of next year, or and so on, and so the cycle continues. And I think the more we can do today to make sure that we are enabling communities to demand their right to the right medicines, education, roads, infrastructure, good health, hospitals, schools, the more we can allow new mothers, that awareness around exclusive breastfeeding for newborns, the fact that it's, that every child has the right for good nutrition and food, and the more we can keep delivering those messages and making that message be heard in different languages across the world, different communities, the more I think we can hope that we can achieve, like by 2030, by 2060. So I think that's that when we talk about sustainable development goals, sustainable because we want this to matter and we want this to be really entrenched in people's mindsets, development because we want progress, and goals because we want a target and because we want this to happen, and it's a promise that we've made to our children.
I was asking you that because for a politician, president, prime minister, and so on, it's very easy just to raise his hand and to say, look, we promise in the next years we work together. But we know that it's not so easy. I mean, it's easy to vote, a good document sometimes, or a good strategy, but it's more difficult to implement it. And which are the guarantees that we should ask for, or which are the instruments that should be used to have a real implementation of these goals? Because, of course, the Millennium Goals, some of them are achieved, but there are a lot to be done again. We are talking about lives, about children's lives, so the responsibility is huge. And in the same time, it's not only a problem of implementation, but also a problem of communication of the rights, if we are talking specifically about children, for example. And we know that usually where we have poverty, we have a bad governance, and we have a bad communication, bad public communication. How will you get assured that the right message regarding the children's rights, for example, according to these new development goals, the global goals, will go straight to the beneficiary and people will really know about their rights?
And I think that's what we're trying to do by engaging young people, by engaging children. I mean, who better to give that voice and to make that voice heard and to make that voice loud than children themselves? And that's why we're using different platforms through social media, through Facebook. What are the how do children talk to each other? How do young people talk to each other? How do millennials communicate with each other? How does Malala reach out to her audience? How do different goodwill ambassadors, how do we do it through? People do it through music. People do it through stories. People do it through poetry. People do it through song. There are different ways that we can just really make that voice heard through different channels, and I think that's what's exciting about today, because there's no right answer about how you do it, but there's definitely a right answer about getting it right, and that is about achieving, all of those goals, all 17 of those goals, and making sure that we deliver that promise at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, and I hope we'll have the chance again to talk about some new achievements according to these new goals. And I hope as a journalist that we're not going to have another important and very generous strategy, but without very good implementation, especially when we are talking about children. Thank you so much and good luck in what you do.
Welcome. Thank you so much.